Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy, my channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to go and do our uranium daily technical analysis update. We'll jump in there. One thing I wanted to start with, and again, it's just my financial opinion. Please don't use it as advice. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to do that, but here, we'll jump in. I'm going to show you something, guys, real quick. I kind of left it up here. The 10-year yield was quite a bit higher today. It was up 4.65%. And with that correlation that I was looking at with the 10-year yield, usually when this 10-year yield starts popping higher, people are worried about inflation. Money starts rotating into energy stocks. And what do we got? We have an update today in the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. There it is. And hopefully we can start to try to attack this downtrend line. We are still chopping sideways, but if that 10-year yield, I think, which looks decent at the moment, if it can continue higher, I think we'll see what will continue higher. And if that 10-year yield breaks out of that consolidation pattern, resistance and support area, we break to the upside of that. And I'll hit it real quick here. If we break to the upside of this guy up here, I think that's going to be a sign that we're going to be moving quite dramatic in uranium, massively. And remember, this is all tied to liquidity and money flows, all this stuff. Now, URNM up 7.18. What I've got here, and I don't know if this thing's just going to do a launch pad right off, but here's my drawing that I drew. I've got this. We might see another down day and then a launch. And hopefully it's a small down day, but I will say we finished strong. We'll see if this thing can keep going. I usually see downward momentum, sideways, and then a launch higher. But it highly depends on the overall market, highly depends on the 10-year yield and what's going on. Bannerman's looking good. It's still chopping sideways. Small down day today, even though the rest of the group had its day in the sun. Bannerman's day will come, and it will be glorious. Goviak's Uranium, this is one I really like. It's probably one of my favorites at the moment that I've been adding into because I wanted to increase my exposure. I have overweighted other companies. It is 100% based off of my personal circumstance. I don't want to say that this is going to be necessarily the best. What you can see is we are kind of, developing this kind of pattern here. It looks to me that we've got the large buying pressure all down in here. Bullish piercing, bullish, big old buying pressure, and a bullish engulfing pattern coming up today with a hammer pattern before it. This, I hope, can continue to the upside and break out of this little pattern we've got here. We break out of that, we'll be moving. But I do like Goviak's Uranium. It's a African developer who has pounds in the ground, who is going to develop a couple of mines, and they're supposed to go online in a few years, 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years at most. Here's Global Atomic looking strong. We're right down at that downtrend line that I've put in here before. Hopefully we can keep the momentum going. And guys, this hasn't, some of these, we need the momentum to continue. We need it to close strong. We need to keep all this stuff going. Otherwise, it very well could turn around if there's fear still in the market and that 10-year yield gets hit to the downside. They're pushing this fear narrative around to try to hold this stuff down. These things want to go higher. Forces Metals, we're still in this large pattern that it's creating. Extend that bad boy out. And then we can extend that guy out. And we're putting in a 1, maybe it's a 2 here, and then maybe we get another hump, and then we launch. So maybe we're putting in a massive pattern here for Forces Metals. That's what it looks like to me. This is definitely a downward motion, sideways motion, and then we're getting up, and we've got a whole bunch of volume picking this up. Myself included. I like Forces Metals. It's an African developing company for uranium, and I think they also have gold. Here is Purepoint Uranium. Looking at it from the big picture view, big old downtrend break. We might see a pattern where this comes back and does a return move, and then we're off to the races. Now, it doesn't mean it does a full retracement. That's where it gets difficult. That's where you want your cost averaging to go into. We are finding a little bit of support here. We'll see if it can hold. Deep yellow's finding support. We're at this big support line that I drew a while back. Let's see if it can hold. And we start chopping sideways for a move higher eventually. We did have this pattern. It broke out, kind of came back. We're bouncing around. A big picture view. This is a big old support line. We break out, and sometimes they want to come down and backtest. Retest, backtest. The volume's in here buying it. I like it quite a bit. I'm holding on to my deep yellow. Go deep with deep yellow. Here's Paladin Energy, and the only thing that I see is this big picture view, and this thing looks fantastic here, guys. Yeah, this thing could come down. It could chop sideways. I'm just going to say who cares, because when this thing breaks, I mean, the volume is here. The volume's saying this is legit. When this thing breaks, you're not going to care if you had a little bit in here versus, 40 cents versus 60 cents, or if your cost average in down here. Because when it goes, it's going to go, and it's going to be a fun ride. And we may break out and then do a retest, or maybe this kind of is the retest. It's hard to say. But I think it looks excellent from a long-term perspective. Sky Harbor's got that same long-term perspective, too. It's got this big pattern here, or resistance line. It broke out, came back, and it's going to find support somewhere, probably in this area over here on the right. And then it's going to take off, and you're either in it or you're not. I mean, this is looking decent down here. It's up to you what you want to do. It's a Canadian exploration company. Does carry a little bit more risk. I do think it's a pretty good company, though. Next Gen Energy. Looks like we got a nice good update today. I like seeing the buying pressure. I do think that we're trying to put in a bottom here. I do think that the momentum is slowing and we're starting to turn a little bit. I'm hoping that this stuff can stay down. I want to buy more. I'm greedy, guys. I'm sorry. We got nice, good support here with this support line. So it's right at support. That's the big picture view on it. Good old volume in here. Big old break there. And we'll see what happens. Canalaska. Zooming out here. We're hitting our head on this resistance line. Zooming in on it. We've got this little downtrend going on. We're probably going to do some bouncing back and forth before we make a move up. But it's looking good. Base load, putting in a bullish engulfing to head higher. I've got the pattern here that I drew, just guessing what's going to happen. So maybe we'll come up a little bit, do some bouncing, and then off to the races afterwards. Fission 3.0 looks like it's trying to move on up, just like I've drawn in here some weeks ago with my guesses. And guys, I just did that for fun. I don't suspect this to be perfect. I just did it for fun. But it looks like we're finding some support in the area that it's in. Hopefully it can hold. Fission. Fission, looking at this. This is an inverted. Let me see. No, it's not, because a flag pattern would be rolling upward. We're getting a little bit of support here. We're right at the support line on the long term. But we do have this big ascending wedge where if we break to the downside, we could see some further downside if we break. We'll see what happens. Camco putting in a big old, looks like we're breaking out of this downtrend today and closing quite strong. Hopefully the momentum can carry us higher. It's looking better for Camco. Gazettum Prom putting in the bullish engulfing. Let's see if we can roll this thing higher now. We did do the projected move lower, so it's time for it to move up. Peninsula Energy looking okay. It looks like a bullish engulfing pattern today, engulfing the day before it. Big picture view. We've got this big old downtrend line. Whenever you have a large buying month like this, and then a slow leak off of sellers, you almost usually come back almost to the bottom of this. That would be a good buy right there. And then it usually starts to rocket higher. That's a textbook move, guys. So if you see this, if you ever see this, and this is what I did with SM Energy and CDEV and all these other oil companies, you see a large move higher. Let me see if we can see it on the, I can't see it on the 5-year. You see a large move higher, you have a slow leak off of sellers, and then you try buying it close, either just above it or just below it. You can buy it right around and catch it in here, and then it usually starts to rocket higher, especially if you start seeing the volume kick up like this. Boss Energy. Good old bullish engulfing pattern today. It looks really good. at the moment. So hopefully this thing can carry us higher. Lotus Resources. Looking at this guy here, we're just kind of chopping sideways above its resistance line or support line. So that looks good. UROY coming on down. We're kind of trying to chop sideways. We may have some more chopping sideways. And guys, if we see weakness in that 10-year yield and the fear comes back, we could see it sell off again in all these companies. But it's definitely showing signs that it's getting tired of moving down. I think we're starting to equalize the buyers and sellers. We're hitting some support over in this region in here. There's good support at 328 as well, going across. So I bet you we'll see support if it were to come back down a little bit. Encore Energy, a little bit of an update today. There it is. We do have the battle of the buyers and sellers battling it out over here. So we'll see what happens. A little bit of an update. I don't see a reversal pattern out of this yet. We do have a downward momentum, so I think we might chop sideways for a little bit. It's kind of my guess. URG is looking quite strong today. That's a bullish engulfing pattern where the opening price and the closing price engulfs the one before it, or it's very close to it. We have a downtrend break. So we broke out. We kind of did a retest, and then let's see if we can get some traction and move on up. UEC is looking good. Bullish engulfing here. Nice, good update today. Let's keep the momentum rolling. LEU. Let me throw in a line here for LEU. I mean, it looks like we closed above this guy here. And I mean, maybe we got kind of a descending type wedge pattern that we might be breaking. We'll see if we can hold. We got to keep closing above this. We don't want to get pulled back down. Lightbridge, small down day today, not too bad. After it had a large up day yesterday. So it's just resting. ISO Energy. Okay, so we've got the little pattern here. It's like following this pattern. Let's see if we can, get moving on upward. Appia Energy, 5% update, broken down trend, everything's intact. Remember the big up day and then the slow leak off of sellers back down to the bottom? That's usually where a good buying point would be, is when you get this and it comes right back to a double bottom. Good support down here. And what happens is you get buyers down here. It stops the momentum lower. You get buyers down here. It goes up, it comes back, and you know that you have buyers down here from the previous transactions here. So it's a lower risk spot to enter these at these double bottoms if you can see them. Like down here, you see the buyers bought it back up. That's why there's all these wicks at the bottom of these candlesticks down here. It kind of comes in and it hits this buying support area down here, and it's probably going to slowly reverse upward where the sellers exhaust themselves and the buyers start to overwhelm them. Blue Sky Uranium looking pretty good today, a little hammer pattern. Forum Energy Metals looks like it's trying to find some support right here. It's right at support. If you guys like Forum Energy Metals, I mean, now's the time to maybe look at it. The only thing that I'll say here is this is a lot of downside momentum here. And sometimes it pauses, and then you'll see another sell. So you could see this roll over. And what I'm looking at is the size of these candlesticks here. You see this big, these are weekly candlesticks. Big sell-off, big sell-off, big sell-off, and then a fight of the buyers to come back up. You might see the sellers step in and ramp this thing, potentially. Doesn't mean it will, but I see that all the time. I can see it here. Big sell-off, it fights back up, and then the sellers hit it again, and then it kind of like leaks out like that over time. And here's Laramide. Laramide up 6.89%. Looks like it's trying to find some support here, almost a bullish piercing type pattern on the weekly. The dailies, we still have some selling pressure through here, so I'm looking for a move sideways, potentially. So that's what we've got for uranium. Again, watch the 10-year yield. The 10-year yield starts to rocket higher. I think that's going to support this sector quite well, just like it'll support the oil and gas, natural gas sectors. And it also supports solar. So I'm starting to find what is driving these things. And that's what you need to do. You need to find out what your leading indicators are. What is driving these markets? We have an energy crisis. That's undeniable. Look at Europe. Look at Asia. It's gonna work its way in all these different things. So what I do is I just buy this stuff. These are incredibly volatile. You have to ride through this volatility. That's just the name of the game. You have to learn to ride through it. If you guys are new investors, I know it can be difficult, but you got to get your mindset right. Watch my other videos. Watch the oil clips, like the part 1, 2, and 3. Watch some of the uranium clips in terms of valuations, in terms of market conditions, in terms of some of the market balances and the deficits out in the future for uranium. That makes this all just short-term noise. Because when you look at the big picture, when you look out a couple, 4 or 5 years, these things have to go higher. They have to, because they're gonna want to use so much more uranium than what is being produced. So, in my opinion, I kind of just sit in them and hold on. I'm a huge energy bull. The energy crisis will affect everything on this planet. It'll start to work its way to America and move all over the place. And they're going to just start substituting to other things as well. Natural gas goes short, they'll start burning coal. Coal goes short, they start going to oil. Oil will go short. And if we have a problem in oil, this is going to be like a granddaddy energy crisis, because, I mean, they're going to pile in uranium. It's coming. It may take a few years for this to happen, but I do believe it's coming. If you guys like this analysis, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.